Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving into a really fascinating botanical paradox. We're drawing this straight from the meticulous real-world journal of a gardener named Eng, specifically entry number 898, which outlines a plant that is amazingly easy to keep alive, but honestly, it's incredibly frustrating to keep actually happy. Let's get right into the etiolation mystery of the variegated Mexican mint.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever met a plant that absolutely thrives on neglect, but completely throws a fit in the sun? I know, it sounds like a total contradiction, right? Usually the plants we think of as hard as nails, unkillable survivors, are the ones baking out in the hot summer heat. But the subject of our explainer today has this massive inherent conflict. On one hand, it possesses this rugged, gritty resilience, but on the other, it has a totally hidden, frustrating weakness when it comes to capturing light.
Section 1. Meet variegated Mexican mint. Okay, so this is Plectranthus-amboinicus variegatus, or as it's much more commonly known, the variegated Mexican mint. Now, looking at Eng's journal, we see that they've been growing and propagating this specific variety for quite some moons since first finding it. This definitely wasn't just some quick weekend garden experiment. We're talking about a long-term, dedicated observation. Eng has spent some serious time getting to know all the little personality traits and quirks of this specific botanical specimen.
And what's really cool is Eng's initial observations highlight just how unbelievably independent this plant is. First off, it basically raises itself. It takes its own course with almost zero care. Second, and this is wild, it can survive for literal weeks without a single drop of water. And third, Eng actually tested this across 2 entirely distinct microclimates, even leaving it to fend for itself during the heavy, relentless rains of monsoon season. Seriously, it is a true survivor.
Section 2. The art of neglect. Ironically, mastering the watering schedule for this plant means you basically have to ignore it. Eng outlines 2 highly effective, super hands-off approaches here. The first is what they call the routine. This is where you water it really deeply but very infrequently, kind of like you would with a bougainvillea. You just drench it until water pours out of the drainage holes. The second approach is relying on the signals. That means simply waiting until the leaves actually look visibly wilted before giving it a drink. Both of these methods work perfectly. So keeping the plant alive, that's genuinely the easy part. Section 3. The etiolation mystery. Well, meet the central villain of our story today, etiolation. As Eng notes in the journal, this is what happens when a plant just cannot get enough sunlight. It's basically a desperate survival mechanism. The plant physically alters the way it grows, stretching outward and upward, blindly reaching out trying to find a light source. It keeps the plant alive, sure, but it completely transforms how it looks and behaves. So when the variegated Mexican mint experiences this etiolation, it doesn't just get a bit taller, it actually structurally degrades. As it stretches out for that sunlight, Anne observed that the stems become noticeably thin and super weak, losing all of that tough hardiness. Plus, the leaves just stop growing in those nice, dense, lush clusters. Instead, they grow way further apart along the stem. The whole plant essentially becomes this frail, stringy version of its former self. Section 4. The sunlight paradox. Now, let's see how all of this builds into a totally frustrating paradox. If you read the literature, this plant is supposed to absolutely thrive under full sunlight. But when Eng actually put it to the test in full sun, it fared poorly. The plant didn't like it at all, which is a massive puzzle. So Eng pivoted. They tried an entirely different environment, experimenting with growing the plant out in the wild. And the result there? Honestly, equally baffling. The wild environment actually did cure the etiolation. The plant finally stopped stretching. But it just traded one problem for another. Out in the wild, its growth became completely stunted. I think this brings us to a really compelling realization about cultivation. It's an ongoing, constantly evolving scientific journey. Eng signs off the journal entry with this great thought: let's see how this goes once I resume my next round of propagation again and under different microclimates. Till the next post. I love that because it perfectly captures the mindset of a dedicated grower. There is no ultimate defeat here, right? It's all just gathering data. The experiment isn't over. The hunt for that perfect microclimate simply continues into the next round. Which leaves us pondering one final lingering question. Does the perfect microclimate truly exist for this botanical paradox? Is there some magical intersection out there where the variegated Mexican mint can be perfectly watered through sheer neglect, but still get the exact right light to thrive without etiolating or stunting? It's a remarkably delicate balance that Eng is still chasing, and it's a great reminder to all of us that even the most common everyday plants hold some incredibly complex secrets.